Oh, I do believe we are here. Okay, let's just see if we can actually get this to work right this time. Lord knows if we will, but we'll see what happens. And if not, we'll find out. Anyway, no, that still says 13, so the odds are not. You actually in the right thing? Yep. So let's see what it does. I do not know why it's not doing that, so we'll take this. We'll just copy that and pop it in here and see if that does what we want. That should show me what I'm looking for. Yes, technology has been a royal pain in the neck today, but what the heck? And live stream, are we up and running? We will know that momentarily. And of course we're waiting. That is not what I was hoping for. Why not? Oh well. We'll work with what we got, I guess. Don't need all that. Anyway, welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on September 19th, 2022 at approximately 12:49 p.m. PST. Good afternoon, Chris. Glad you could join us. If I seem a little scattered, it's only because of the fact that I am still trying to get things to work properly and technology has not been working right. So with that in mind,
Still trying to get things to work properly.
okay, that's working. Okay, don't need that. Now we go back down and make sure we get the right size so we can actually see what we're doing. Okay. Well, that's a different setup because that is not what we were hoping for. At least I know I'm broadcasting. Anyway, this is one of the things I was looking at today. Okay, was literally the importance of organizing yourself, of being organized, especially when you're working on a major project. Minor projects, it applies just the same, but way too many people go, gee, I'm just going to do this, and they don't think it through, meaning they don't plan. Now, there's an old saying that goes, though, if people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. In my case, all the planning in the world doesn't seem to help with technology. I can work at it as much as I want. It still doesn't work properly. So I'm just trying to figure out if this is actually going to pop into place the way I desire it to, or not. At least I know it's actually. Oh, okay, they didn't actually drop it. My window's open. Chad, how you doing? Glad you made it. It was touch and go whether I was going to actually get home in time to run this today, because things have been just absolutely scrambled. Let's see what happens. That's his dashboard. I'm still working on my other screen over here, and this is one of the things I was referring to about being organized, is you've got to have an idea of what you're aiming for. So when let's see, we're looking at that now. That's not what I want. So we take that and let's just go to YouTube and see if that works itself. Oh, go there. And what I'm trying to do, in all fairness, is get things up and running so I can actually see what I'm doing, or more to the point, read what people are saying. Okay. Let us see here. We are at home, obviously. Let's try this. I'm still trying to figure all this out and probably will for the next 10 years. See if that brings it. Nope. Of course not. So we're going to just not worry about it too terribly much. Yeah, it did. That was actually the garbage collection making all kinds of noise. So ultimately I had to deal with that side of it. But I've got to keep the window open because if I don't, I run into an interesting snag. I overheat. Not really fun. I hate that. This is live stream and I don't get options on if I'm going to sneeze. It just doesn't work that way. Tell you, there's got to be an easier way to do this, but apparently not overly. That's where I want to go to, hopefully. Yep, right there. Talk about going around things the hard way. Anyway, now I can see what I'm doing. This is why I try and get in, get organized first. But needless to say, that doesn't work. Okay, there's the background killed off. Okay, now we are back in business. Anyway, when I'm talking about organizing, okay, and I covered this actually in this little book here. The one thing I do have to point out. Nope, not that one. This one. The one thing I do have to point out. When people ask me about the books that I'm writing, okay, when I write them, okay, I figure I repeat myself quite often. So what I've done, okay, first and foremost, I do actually have a website up called rkeithandrews.com, which details all of the different books I've written. Okay, every one of them can be acquired through me directly, and I do actually I work through PayPal through the email address of the Inner Voice Enterprises at yahoo.ca. Now, this little book here, Believe in Yourself and Follow Your Dreams. Okay, this is literally the backbone of how I turned my life around. Now, I've been talking about clearing things out, and I realize you can't see what I've done. But the shelves that were up here that were full are now empty. They've got only what I'm working on them. Okay, but in this book, okay, the first step is you take a look at any project at all that you're working on. You break it down into 15 minutes to half-hour jobs. Okay. The important factor the important factor is you break it down so you can actually organize it. Because here's the reality behind it. You take a project that's going to take you longer than a couple of hours. That's what I've been dealing with, and I will show you new ones. No, but sort of. Give me half a sec. Didn't quite get everything set up that I should have. Where is this whole wall that I'm standing by that you can't actually see is full of figures I'm working on. Where is gravity works. Show you the newest one as soon as I figure out which bin it's in, because I put him in backwards, so I can't tell. No, not him. Where did he go? Tulby. None of those. So where is the tramp that I'm working on? Gravity is definitely working. I think I just ruined that one. Okay, the newest one I'm working. Jumping Jiminy, we're having trouble with gravity today. This is not the only one I've got. Okay, but I've got in the Return to Paradise, the book I'm working on right now. Okay, I have the characters. I'm writing a section right now where they are in an ironwood forest. Okay, good afternoon, Jenny. How you doing? And this is another one of the Arboreans. But this one, as you can see, is going to be black when I get finished. I've actually got paint down to work on him a little. What I'm looking for up here, if you're wondering, is the other... Where'd it go? Is the other treant. Well, in D&D, it's called a treant. In my books, not quite so much so. There it is. Knew I had it here somewhere. Okay, this is the one I was looking for. This one I haven't actually completed. Well, this one I have completed, but... Okay. How's that for scattered? This one I've shown you guys before. This is an Arborean. Okay. But as you can see, this one's got 4 arms. I think you can see that. That one's got 4 arms. Now, he's done in just the normal tree brown. This is another Arborean. But this one, as you can see, will be black when I'm done. Okay. But there is a scene I'm working on where you're looking at Arborean versus Arborean in the storyline. You know, there's a lot going on right now. I'm still looking at coming out at the end of the year, by the end of the year with the 3rd book. But the answer to your other question is this. Okay, one shelf I've got up here now. Okay, has figures and characters I'm using to keep track of what is happening in a given storyline. Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much. Who is talking about that? There we go. Yeah, gravity is working really well. Unfortunately, I think it ruined one of my figures. I think it broke the arm off it, which doesn't really ruin it. It just makes it a little different. Yeah, this one, when I get done with it, will be the primary part of it will be black, although I am seriously considering taking the fingertips and turning them more. I'm thinking if I look at the fingertips, and certainly I'm open to input, if I take a look at the fingertips on this, I'm thinking to do them dark green, as in new shoots that haven't got the solid bark on them. Okay, that's the one option. And of course, right here, there's some mushroom growth. This is definitely a different tree, a different arborean than this one. But I'm looking at these characters going, I've got to get organized. Yeah, doesn't he though? That was the idea. As a matter of fact, in the scene that I wrote with this, the characters are, what's happening is the characters involved are in this forest and they get attacked by the Muldock. Well, the problem with the Muldocks attacking is the Arboreans already don't like them. So there is a pretty graphic scene that goes on, and I haven't got it fully written yet, so I'm not going to go there just yet. But when it comes to the organizing, what I've done, okay, and I know I sound a little scattered on occasion. Actually, I sound a lot scattered on occasion. But in the last 3 days, I've actually managed to go through almost 10 pages of expansion. And here's the thing. Now, I've always said where it comes to the Yldrbacian Chronicles, that it's written with gamers in mind. I've got everything caught up to date with it now. So the next section that I'll be writing tonight is going to involve an actual game taking place right smack in the middle of the war. Okay, things have settled down a little, so slow things down, take it back inside cases where people are settling down. And if you actually already own the end of an epic, you'll have already met some of the gamers. Okay. If not, by all means, it's up and available already. I'm still having troubles, as it turns out, with the people that were supposed to be helping me, so-called professionals. Not in my opinion, but that's me. And before anybody says something, that is correct. That's not coffee. It's the worst possible thing for you unless you're trying to clean out your pipes. Also known as Coke, but I like it, so there we go. But I was talking about figures being worked on. And this is Kathy. You'll run into her a lot in cases because she is one of the primary waitresses. Right. This gentleman I'm using to represent Blade. Okay, one of the primary characters. Now, I've got a number, and now, of course, because I have to work with medieval figures, I simply have to be careful how I do it. Okay. Then we have this gentleman that is actually in an earlier book. Now, bear in mind, the way I've done it with Jeremiah is followed through the story, throughout the stories. Okay. But this is the character for a chap by the name of Billion, which also is Jeremiah's earlier name. Okay. As you can see, he's carrying a staff, and you'll get to see more of that. I think you can see that he's carrying a staff. Yeah, right there. Okay. These are ones that I've been working on. Okay. So, I mean, there's a lot that goes on with it, but you take whatever project you're working on. For me, I started off this morning by making sure my office was absolutely cleared, my finances were in place, so I knew exactly what I was doing. But again, okay, when you do it, and paper usually works best. Get these guys out of the way because they're just basically in the way. Right now, I've actually turned it on. I've actually turned around and put it on the computer. My list of what I'm working on. Okay, so I have to call that up. But you take a sheet of paper, you write down 3 things that you require to get done. Okay, make sure they are only 15-minute to half-hour jobs. Okay, that way, when you get one completed, okay, when you get the job itself completed, you can check it off. Because let's face it, let's say you've got a job that requires 2 hours or that you feel is going to require 2 hours. The problem with leaving that job as a 2-hour task is you'll turn around and you'll get partway into it, and then you get called away for whatever reason. Now, with that in mind, now you're going to have to find another 2-hour block to finish it off. Okay. And then hope you can get through it without interruption. When you break a task down into 15-minute to half-hour tasks, then you get one job done and you get called away. Well, first and foremost, you're down to only requiring 1 hour 45 minutes because you've already got the 15-minute job done. Now, I got things set up, and let me just open this one little file. It's actually set to go, so that's not a big problem. I opened it up, and let's see, I can change that to black. So I had some pretty solid tasks that I had to deal with today that I marked off. Okay. So from that end, it worked out really nicely. But here's the thing. If you're not staying organized, you're going to feel like you didn't get things done. By the end of the day, I should have 15 to 20 different tasks taken care of. Okay. And as it turns out, right now, I've got... I did that already. Okay. So I can check. I'm just going to check these few off while I'm here. Okay. Of the list that I had to start with, okay, I had, what was it? 13 on my task list already before I even got to this. Okay. So what I ended up, let me get back to that because frankly, did that off. That's what I mean by not being able to see as much as I'd like to. The answer there, Jenny. The answer is yes. There is no question. Those are arboreans. There's no question to me. Okay. Many people will argue the point, but those are actual living arboreans here on the planet. Now, the neat little part about it, greetings, Terry. Glad you can make it. I did get your message the other day that you hadn't been able to get on. Okay, I ran into some technical problems there. Imagine that, me with technical problems. But yeah, Jenny, there is no question. Those videos that you've seen with moving trees, those are arboreans. Really pleased me. I knew about them obviously I knew about them years ago, but the only ones I'd heard about were the ones down in Borneo that move. I think it's Borneo that move like 6-8 inches every 10 years sort of thing. As you can see by the ones that you're seeing on video now. And I mentioned to people this was going to happen, that the ancient races were going to resurface. Okay, those arboreans are only one race. Now bear in mind, arboreans themselves, and yes, for those of you that are not aware of it, this little book here, Races of the Worlds. Okay, this covers 69 different races I personally deal with. I just want to make sure I don't put my foot in my mouth first. Because on top of these 69, I've got another 45 or 50 in volume 2. And I looked down here, and yeah, I was right. And let's just double check, because I'm pretty certain. Don't know, in all fairness, if I did. So let's find out. Hey, for crying in a water bucket, will you guys actually cooperate today? Hey. Not that. I need to go back to WXY. What I'm looking for here is to see if I remember to put these where they belong. And apparently not. Well, that just figured. Remember that thing I mentioned about being organized? Apparently that's not entirely my strongest suit right now. But I do know I've got the picture, and I don't know how to get it on here. I'm going to try something and see if I can. If I go to this, because I'm not sure this is going to work, but we're going to take a look at it and see what happens. If I go to advertising, that's just a file on my computer here. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to try something here. If it works, this is great. If it doesn't work, well, there's not much I can do with it. Take a look at that, and let's see if we can find what I'm looking for. Anytime you want to break... Oh, volume 1, that's why. Okay, where are we? There. I'm going to see if this actually works. If it does, then this will show up you guys will be able to take a look at it, but we're about to find out. There you go. Now, hopefully that adds up. Okay, that is an arborean. Okay, and this is actually the picture that's going in. Hopefully that showed up. I don't know if it did. Doesn't look like it. Oh, wait a minute. That's because I have to do that. Maybe. I don't think that worked as well as I wanted it to. What do we got here? If I go paste. No, that's not what I wanted. And since that wasn't what I wanted, I haven't figured out, in all fairness, how to show a picture in the chat room here. But the Arborians are on the whole a rather peaceable group. They simply want to protect the planet, to protect Yldrbac. But yes, the when you take a look at those moving trees, okay, understand, Arborians are not all trees. You've got brambles, you've got thistles, you've got all kinds of smaller ones. How are we doing, Chris? Thank you so much. Yeah, the Strazazian, and just for those of you who haven't seen it before, Wolfpack. Nope, End of an Epoch. For those of you that have not seen this before, this is the second book in the series, and this chap right here, this is a Strazazian. And this is what Chris was just saying he's working on right now for the Races of the Worlds. Okay. This here is Jeremiah, and you can see the difference in the height. Okay. And you take a look at the size of the mace. Now, the reality of it is that very nice chap, this one. But what you'll find is people keep asking me, well, why don't the off-worlders show themselves if they're that interested in our well-being? Now, picture, if you will, a human walking into your area that is only 7.5 feet tall. People look at them and they get edgy to start with. But picture somebody that size. Okay, you picture somebody this size walking in, looking like that. Now, people are going to get, on the whole, really agitated about it. Okay. Now, the neat part about it, when I'm putting all of these together, because my whole idea where it comes to writing is make certain that people feel like they're in the middle of the story. And that's where it gets to be complicated on occasion. Okay. The hard part from your end, especially if you've got a project. Now, the project can be something as simple as straightening out the room. Okay. Now, yesterday, and you can't see this because it's out in the hall. Yesterday, I got a little carried away. And I wiped out 2 major shelving units that I had that I didn't require anymore. They were just holding junk. So I emptied, what was it now? 9, 10, 4 and 6, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I cleared off 14 shelves of junk. And it boiled down to doing exactly what I was talking about. Getting organized. Pick your projects, the ones that are important, but they're important to you. But remember, where it comes to the ones that are important to you, you've got to remind yourself of one very important little factor. One very critical little factor. Okay. And that little factor is if it's important to you, it's worth doing. If it's important to somebody else, you may have trouble motivating yourself unless you're getting paid for it. Now, what I ended up doing is I've got things worked out. Wish I know how to do that, but I don't. Okay. Anyway, the other neat little thing as far as getting organized goes, I actually am currently working on a website right now. Like, I've already got Yldrbac on Facebook, but I am currently having built Yldrbac.com. Okay, and when it comes up, then the entire issue of the entire focus of it is literally on updating the Yldrbacian Chronicles and how they're coming about. Okay, and again, it boils down to making certain you get things straight in your own head. Okay, especially where it comes to a project. Now, as you can see, with Chris here, Chris has done a phenomenal job on the artwork. I just can't show it to you because I'd love to, but I haven't figured out how. But Chris is the one that is actually doing my artwork for the Races of the Worlds. Okay. And in all fairness, if I didn't think he wasn't and that he was good enough, there is no way I'd be getting him to do it. So give him a shout if you've got artwork to do. Give him a shout. Okay. Quite frankly, if he's still sitting in the chat room, you might be able to get a hold of him that way. But you pick the projects that you've got. And like I know of a couple of people that say that I've been talking to that went, well, I had a real good storyline, but I was told it's not good enough. And I looked at the person, I went, well, there's 7.9 billion people on the planet. Now, I never considered myself any sort of a functional writer. Okay. I was absolutely told when I was in grade 10 that that's where my real money was going to be made. You know, I got talking to somebody the other day. I've got 7 books in print, which apparently is an odd setup. Now, right now, because the only person that is doing it right is my local printer. Okay. Right now, all of the books can be ordered directly through me. Okay. And if you look at the bottom of this video, you'll find a whole list of videos. You'll find a whole list of different books that I've already written. Now, I required that, yes, I'm over on the far side of the room. But that's because can't reach these without it. So I figured while I'm sitting here, I might as well do the other side of this. Where did it go? Right there. You know, when I paint a lot with toothpicks, but I also have a tendency of painting with a brush when it's a big area. Now, with that in mind, you know, the reality is I have a problem with this idea of only doing one thing at a time. It doesn't tend to work well for me. There it is. Keep everything in range and I don't have to go very far. Works out kind of nicely in my eyes. See, and this is what I was referring to. Pick the project. You know, right now, I cannot paint this thing completely. Not right now, anyway. Because the reality of it is there is way too much to paint. But that doesn't mean I can't do part of it. Yeah, the whole catch to it is you paint the big, and for those of you that don't work with these, you take your big areas, and as you can see, like the glare is really bad. But I just take the part that is a big area first, that I know is going to be a big area, and work with that to start with. Then I can enhance it with the finer painting. The idea is real simple. You know, the big stuff is going to overlap anyway. I know this. But when you do the fine printing after the fact, the fine painting after the fact, you can eliminate some of the mistakes. You know, some of the overpaint. But this is like, in all fairness, I figured I might just well do this part of it while I'm talking to you. Again, it boils down to a question of utilizing your time effectively. Now, right now, I happen to have, I haven't actually counted them recently, but I think I've got about 500 figures that I'm working on, give or take. You know, and that really is a question of just pick which ones you're going to work with. Pick which project you're going to work on. Now, for me, you know, if you think about it, I've got this going on. I'm reworking my entire office, my entire house, and getting rid of stuff that I just no longer require. And I will tell you this, you get rid of the clutter, which means clear out the hallway so you don't have anything in the hallway you can trip over. Okay, it lets the energy in your house run a whole lot more smoothly. By doing that, you'll find you think more clearly, you'll feel better, you'll have more energy. These are all side effects. Now, I have come to the recent conclusion that if I'm not actually getting a reasonable amount of food, into my system, I will run into some pretty severe complications. This is sort of like, quite often I'll sit here doing this when I'm actually watching a movie. So I'm not going to get carried away with this. Primarily because of the fact that, well, if I do that, I get sidetracked. When you've got a project, when you've got something that you feel you're qualified to do or that you feel drawn to do not let anybody else tell you, if it's something that isn't going to cause a problem. Okay. In other words, if what you're really drawn to do is beneficial for yourself and or for other people, okay, then it boils down to it is worth pursuing. As long as what you're doing is not breaking any laws, is not encouraging others to hurt other people, or is not about hurting other people, then absolutely look at the idea of what you're aiming at. Now, the thing I find, and I've mentioned this before, I've talked to a lot, I used to be like most people, thinking that the major media moguls were the problem. And what I came to understand is they're really not. It's actually the general populace that is creating the problem. Okay, and what I mean by that is, like most people, I was under the impression that the major media moguls were the ones putting out the negativity. But if you go on your Facebook site, the social media proved that all wrong. Because if you go on the social media site, where do we go here? Social media, Facebook. First thing that shows up in the top right corner and usually shows up, is people that are let's see, these are pictures that nobody wants you to see, that the subjects of the pictures don't want you to see. So let's post them all over the internet. Okay, think about it. If you did something that you were not proud of, that you were not happy with, that you were embarrassed by, would you personally desire that to be put on the net by somebody else? If not, then it really is time to organize your own thoughts and go, okay, that's probably not a good thing to post. Unfortunately, I see a lot of times where what happens is exactly the opposite. People tell me they go after shock factor. Okay. Now, from that end, I'm looking at it going, okay, it may be shocking, but is it actually benefiting anybody? Or more to the point, is it targeted to hurt somebody? Now, don't get me wrong. I know things go bad. I do know this. And this is why I spend so much time trying to really working at organizing my own thoughts to really stay focused on the things that are actually beneficial. And of course, some people are looking at it. Some people will look at this and go, well, how can painting a figure be beneficial? Well, let me put it this way. If you've read the Yldrbac Chronicles, you'll find that I've got a very violent thought line on occasion. This keeps me calm during the day, which helps realistically me cope with the day-to-day stresses. Now, I'm going to do something very simple here, because as you can see, it takes a while to get done, but we're getting the leg done. Okay, but it's got to be done in its own fashion. And if I don't take the time to do it right, it won't work out properly. And it's the same with you. If you're not organized, if you don't have things put in the right place, in the right order, you're not going to get them done properly. Now, I've even gone so far as to scramble and try my hand at cooking on occasion. By the way, it turns out if you put ingredients into a meal, if you put them in the wrong order, they don't come out properly. Again, it boils down to talking to somebody that's done it successfully before and figure out how to actually make it work. But that is up to you. I can tell you the tools that I offer, the tools I work with, that I talk about, are the ones that have actually worked for me. Keep forgetting what I did with my glasses. They're right in front of me. The reality of it is you take a look at any project you're working on. And as a matter of fact, I think what I'm going to do here. No, don't think what I'm going to do. Where did my pencil go? Of course, my pencil is not visible. When you know it. This is the problem that I run into on occasion, because I'll pick something up and take it somewhere and forget where I put it down. There we go. Now, like I said, because of the fact that I'm looking at this character, at this Arborian, okay, I'm making him black, but it did dawn on me that it would look really neat if I took the fingers and made them green. Okay, so this is what I'm doing, is on this sheet of paper I showed you, I'm making a note so I know when this one gets done. Okay, when I go to come back to it, I will already know what colors I'm working with. Again, it boils down to organizing. Now, if you get things organized properly, then you can get a staggering amount accomplished. Okay. Just because of the fact that I can do it, because my stream. Chris, if you're still in the room, if you're interested, absolutely put your link up, because I frankly don't know it offhand. I'm certainly not going to go and try and find it here. But put your link up for how people can get a hold of you. Okay. Hey, Ange, how you doing? And what pray tell did I do there? Glad you could make it. I need to go back to there. There we are. It's been a little bit of a different approach today, but I figured, what the heck? I had the time. I was really debating whether I was going to get the chance to get in. I've been really somewhat scattered today. I ran into a real problem, and it started, in all fairness, I went down to my son's high school late last week. So many people there. I don't deal with crowds well anymore unless I'm actually working. So I got down there and had to wait around. I'll tell you, my nerves were shot when I came out. So this is one of the reasons why I'm clearing the clutter out of my place and simply setting it up so that here I am, I can stay put. Okay. Because the less I have to leave the house, the happier I am. Now, what is the other one here? See, I've got black here that I'm working with, right? I've got the green. And I think what we're going to do, put that down there. Put that over there. And then we go, because he's only got a couple eyes, but I do feel that yellow eyes in this case will work really nicely. So all in all, we're looking at, I'm working on this one. Okay, I've got lichen I've got to sort out, but I think what I need to do is knot holes and trunk centers. So if I take this and we put the knot holes and the trunk center, and we make those 10, and we'll be good. So when I come on later, I will have more of this done, because this is one of those projects I'm working on that I'm aiming at completing. Is that actually the 10 I was looking for? That should be cashmere. Yeah, that's the right one. See, again, this boils down to, I like the way that Gene Simmons put it. I listened to him years ago on a show called Gene Simmons' Family Jewels. And he made a comment that I'm absolutely agree with, and I'm going to repeat right here. What he said, and this does apply even today, those of you that have a creative mind, that are aiming at a creative work, whether it's writing, acting, singing, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, take that and take that focus. Now most people are taught, or are under the misbelief, and I call it misbelief because it proved to me to be absolutely accurate. Okay, or more to the point, inaccurate. But we're taught to believe that creativity is 90% inspiration and 10% perspiration. Well, you think about it. And Gene Simmons, what he did was he leans right into the camera and he goes, for all of you creative people, you've got it backwards. Creativity is 90% perspiration, 10% inspiration. Now, to drive that point home, sitting in grade 10 English class, okay, if you take a look at any one of these books, this is the first one that actually came out, but that's The Birth of the Wolf Pack. Way in the back of it, okay, if we go all the way to the back end, past the actual writing, and we go into, here we are, inside the back, there is a piece of work written. Don't know if you can read that, but it says Yldrbac, the story. This is the actual story that I wrote when I was in grade 10 in one English class. Now, the neat part about it is that was one 15-minute package. Since then, here I am 59 years later, in other words, 41 years of work later. I've got 2 of these in print, and the other 12 or the other 10 are already under construction. Okay, but it boils down to staying organized to make certain that you get things done in the right order. Okay, right order being it's got to follow a path. Now, I am not a singer, and trust me on this one, you just don't want me doing that. It's just not a good idea. I remember taking a girlfriend of mine years ago, took her to an audition, and coming down the hall, we're sitting there waiting for her turn, and coming down the hall, we could hear this other woman screaming at her boyfriend. I don't know why I have to go. I don't know why I have to go to an audition. I've been singing for years. I've been on stage. I've had people in tears when I've been on the stage. Well, she made that comment as she's coming through the door. And I just looked at her and I says, I've had that effect on people too, which is why I'm not going to torture you with any sort of rendition of my singing. It's just not a healthy idea. Apparently, I'm not tone deaf, but I still don't like it, so it's just not going to go that way. On the other hand, I do have, inside the Yldrbacian Chronicles, I do have both poems and songs that are written in it. And I will be getting people I will be finding somebody to put the music to the songs so they can be produced later. The poetry is not going to be a problem. Okay, it's mine anyway. And yes, that's one of the books I'm working on, is a poetic anthology. But for me, writing is just plain normal. Organization, that's a bit more of a challenge. Of course, we have to understand that the reason I'm caught up with the idea of the organization lately is if we go back to my grandfather, born in 1902, okay, in other words, born over a century ago, okay, as a matter of fact, he died over 50 years ago at this point. Every member of my bloodline since that point has been a pack rat. Okay, in my case, I've decided I'm no longer tolerating that for me. Okay, which is why I'm disposing of so much and sending it either to people that can use it, or just simply sending it off to, if it's garbage, it's going to the garbage. If it's small little trinkets that I don't have somebody I know can put it to use, I'm sending it to secondhand shops. Now, yes, they can make money off it. Absolutely. And technically, I could sell it. But the reality for me is it's not worth the effort. I tried working a flea market for, I think, about a year and a half, maybe 2 years, and I seldom made the cost of my table. So for me, that means it was costing me more to try and sell it than it was to just dump it. So I've taken to dumping it. But like I said, I don't throw it in the garbage unless it is broken. So right now, on the table here, like I've got my office desk sorted out where I can actually work quite nicely with it. Yeah, that worked out well. How about if we move you out of the paint? What do you think? Left that too long and now it all dried up. Well, isn't that just a pain? So we take a look at that and just, this is why I work with multiple figures all at once, is because of the fact that when you're doing a lot of work, and I'm pretty, see, I don't know how it is with Chris, with actual artwork. Okay. I know for me, I work on multiple different programs all at the same time. Like multiple different projects. I don't know if it works the same way when you're painting. Okay. And in answer to that neat little question that nobody's really asking, why am I moving up to do the arm? Well, because of the fact that by doing the arm, I actually can clear out part of it and get set to see what it looks like as I add things like the fingers. And if you look, there's a mass growing there, growing right here. Okay, that's got to be another color, and I haven't decided what, because, well, frankly, I haven't looked up what is really appropriate. Many of the times when I'm writing about stuff, what I end up doing, because I desire people to be right caught in the story, okay, I will look up on the internet and find some sort of reference that tells me what something is actually supposed to be called. Now, this does not mean I look up what other people are calling things like the Arboreans. To me, that doesn't matter. Okay. As the saying goes, I've been known for him by many names on many worlds. And in my case, that is literal. Okay. Because you got to remember, well, you don't have to. But I remember many of my past lives. Net result, I remember some of the names, but only really vaguely. Okay. But and this idea that people come up with of, oh, I don't want to be called this gender. Sorry. Newsflash, I don't care what anybody says. I'm male. That's just the way that goes. Okay, now, do I always relate to the people I'm dealing with? In all fairness, seldom do I relate. Okay, but I've always held that if somebody actually desires to meet me and they're in the area, absolutely drop me a line. I would be more than happy to join you for coffee. Because what you see here is the way I am. And for whoever mentioned it the other day, I will apologize. Well, sort of. The reality is that I didn't get around. Actually, got up this morning and got way too busy at the beginning of it all. And net result, did I get my hair and everything organized the way it should have been in my eyes? No. I am working on doing that a lot more readily, but it frankly isn't an overly high priority. And the neat part is, like, I remember talking to somebody one day and they said, look, if you want to talk to professionals, you have to dress the part. And I look at it and go, if I desire to talk to professionals that are looking for my insight, I have to dress. The part is listen to what I've got to say if you're interested. But I am by no means, shall we say, politically correct most of the time. But then I never found it to be all that beneficial. As the saying goes, like, the thing is with my office, I have a very set pattern that I'm looking at. And like I tell people, that's my office. In other words, However I organize it, that's what works best for me. Okay, at least I think it's what works best for me. So far, it's working better than doing it the way everybody else's way. I'll tell you, sometimes this gets to be a real pain in the neck trying to get the angle of the brush, to actually get the piece of the person painted. I might just get to part of the green here beforehand. Now, if anybody's got any insight, I am open to suggestions here. I'm looking at a couple of things here that are easy to break. The majority of this body is going to be obviously black. Okay. But that's because, well, frankly, that's the color I decided on. That, and it's from an ironwood forest. But what I've got here, I'll try and show you a little bit more readily. Oh, can't do that. And there we go. Okay. If you look here, okay, I've got the black, obviously. But around the back of the hand, there is what looks like some sort of it's either moss or it might be a fungus. I don't know. So I'm aiming at a color for that. I'm thinking probably a yellowish of some form. Because at the top here, you'll notice the trunk. Yeah, like you can see that. You notice at the top of the trunk here, right in the middle here, there is another color. That's actually showing the inside of the trunk. That I'm looking at tan, much as like I did with this one. This figure here. If you look in the middle of it, there's light there. Okay. So that same section, I'm going to do the same color. Okay. But then I've got this issue. Okay, now this is where it gets to be a little bit different from my end. Okay, I've got a couple of options. The tips of the fingers, I'm looking at making those a lighter green. What I'm debating, and this is where I'm quite open to input, is the other part of the length of the finger, whether to make that a dark green or make that tan like the top of the head. Okay, because I don't want a whole pile of different colors, right? But I do know that making it a little bit more colorful will make it a little bit more enjoyable, if you will. You take care, Chris. Thanks so much for dropping by. We all have different things that we got to get that we're working on, different projects. And for me, like I get finished today, it is 1:45 my time. So come 2:30, I'm gonna have to bail. Primarily because that'll be the 2-hour mark anyway, roughly. But as far as the colors on this guy go, okay, I'm looking at it going, I've got those two colors, and if somebody's got a suggestion or a different one, by all means. There is also the eyes I'm going to be making yellow, and those you're not going to see on this video. Primarily because I don't have the clarity of the video to do it. But, and this is why I say organization is critical, because if you don't have an idea of what you're aiming at, or more to the point, and this is by far more important. Oh, okay. What do we got here? So you're thinking, when you're talking reddish brown there, Jenny, you're thinking reddish brown for the fingertips or for a different part? Because from my standpoint, I'm quite open to it. Right now, it's a question of it's a piece of work, it's a work in progress. And therefore, I've got a lot of room to work with. And yeah, I keep taking my eyeglasses off because, quite frankly, I can't see close with them. Which is really neat, since I used to have a problem where I couldn't see further than where my paintbrush is right now. right? I used to be able to see absolutely nothing at a distance, which was really fun trying to drive, but what the heck. You know, I may not be perfect. Well, I'm not perfect, but the nice part about it is I do know what my limits are. I just like pushing them on occasion when it's safe to do so. But you take whatever project you're working on. That's actually a thought I never actually entertained. But yeah, the fungus is actually a really good idea. I think that's an excellent idea. So let us see what I've got here. Put that down for a sec. Got my paint on the other side of the room. But let's see what we got. Yeah, put my glasses down so I can't see that far. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, I don't mix paints very well, in all fairness. But I'm thinking here, Jenny, I don't think the real bright red is a good idea. The neon or the bright is just a bad idea in my eyes. Unless, well, that's not entirely true. See, in nature, and this is something that, again, when I'm doing my writing, I look at. In nature, the brighter the something is colored, the more deadly it is. So with that in mind, and I don't know if I've ever seen, I wonder if there are any, just a curiosity thing. So let us bring that down, open a new window up, and see if we actually have, going to look up and see if there actually are red mushrooms. Look, there we go. Just calling up. Oh, look at that. They've got red ones with white spots. There's all kinds of red mushrooms, but, let's see. It says, what kind of mushrooms are red? I don't know if that means it's poisonous or not, but it does, and they do exist. And there we have, and what about red fungus? See, this is where, are red mushrooms poisonous? And it comes up here. Species grow in boreal forest, no kidding, but are very poisonous. You know what, Jenny? That was an excellent suggestion. Now let us take a look at this other piece. Whoops. And let us see what red fungus pops up. Because I don't rightly know if these are supposed to be mushrooms or fungus. So we're just going to take a look. I never honestly even considered red mushrooms. Holy mackerel. Now, does that ever work out nicely? That is something I never even considered. But they are usually a duller, yeah, that one's bright red. So let us take a look at this guy without falling over. What do you think? If we take a look at this guy, and doesn't look like, yeah, it doesn't look like what they're showing, but this said, looks far more like a fungus than it does like a mushroom, which is great, but it's still a color I never even associated with the trees. But it does work out rather nicely. So if we go is red, there we go. It's not harmful or toxic, which is fine. That's only red cage fungus, though. Let us see about poisonous red fungus and see what they show. This is about as much research as I ever do, by the way. Okay, those are mushroom. I guess fungus and mushroom are pretty much the same dang thing. So if we take a look at that, and yeah, there is absolutely no problem there. You show a lot of mushrooms, a lot of what have you. But no, I honestly never even thought about red, but I think that's an excellent idea. So thank you so much for that. And this is what happens when I talk to people that come up with an idea that is really useful. It's Tucson red. I thought I had cinnamon, but apparently not. So let's go with Tucson. That was actually an excellent idea, but I do need this. Grab that one. And another little paintbrush here, because the paintbrushes, when I get done with them, they're pretty much toasted by the end of the day. You know, because I don't know how to get acrylic paint to soften up so I can clean the brushes off. And thus far, turpentine has not worked that well. But this, on the other hand, where is that? There we go. Oh, we didn't put that in. You know, if you don't put paint in the bin, you can't actually use it very well. Get that out of the way. And where did my other paintbrush go? In my hand, of course. Yeah, I'm looking for the thing sitting right here. The neat part about it, because I end up working on so many projects at the same time, it becomes an entertaining endeavor for me. And we'll see what happens here, because the black is already dried. So I can get away with this quite readily. But it was a concept I never even honestly considered. So I'm going that route. Now I'll show you in just half a second once I get this part of it done. And again, you know, I am not a master painter by any functional stretch. But I will do my best. And net result, see what I come up with. Neat part about it is the picture they show of the red mushrooms. Well, that's just weird. I'm looking at a picture of a mushroom here that is red with white dots, but there's a bunch of white dots that show a skull that show a skull and crossbone. I'm betting dollars to donuts they didn't grow that way. I mean, technically it's possible, but I'm certainly not holding my breath. But see, once I get this red onto this particular hand, I'll let it dry. Now I just got to figure out whether or not I do the tan and then the green in the middle, or what I'm doing in the way of the fingers. But give me half a second here and we'll see what we've come up with. Because I'm thinking this was an absolutely brilliant idea. It's neat trying to work with color myself because, frankly, up until 2007, I could only see gray, one specific shade of green, and one specific shade of red. Nothing else. So, of course, when people said, well, what's your favorite color? I only had one to functionally choose from, and that was gray. So that's what it became. Now I'm looking at this going, you know, this is actually going to work out really nicely. Yes, it takes a little bit more concentration when working on the finer sides of these things. But hey, what the heck? What do we got here? There we go. And like I said, I use paper or toothpicks to paint with, primarily because it's the only way to get into some of the areas. But yeah, I'm quite happy with this, and this is why I said getting organized is necessary. Now, the funny part about it is I'm doing this, and tonight while I'm on shift, I'll be doing a whole pile of writing and still continue getting rid of some of the stuff that's in my way. But it boils down to going, okay, what is my final goal? Well, my final goal is to get rid of all my junk and all the stuff I don't require anymore by the end of the year. Thus far, I'm making pretty good headway with it, at least in my eyes. Now, the neat part about it is when you've got a goal, the first thing you got to realize is first and foremost, you're going to have to be the one doing the work. Okay, it's not going to go away just by wishful thinking, which is why I get a kick out of people that try and tell me that thinking about doing something is as bad as doing it. Now, if that were the case, understanding that the Yldrbac Chronicles is written about time after civilization collapses. Now, there's a lot of people that have written about how civilization has collapsed. And thus far, civilization, as far as I'm aware, is still going, although it is going down the drain. Way too many people are focused on the fear of what happens if it all falls apart. How about if we focus on what happens when we work together to make sure it doesn't fall apart? I'm thinking that's a better option. But there's a lot of work that has to be done, and it's going to require all of us. But it does boil down to talking to people about what you're trying to do, about what you see as necessary, and finding a way to work with them to make your dreams and theirs a reality, given that you're both working on assisting people and not working on trying to destroy people. Okay, it's funny. Years ago, I was down at the skateboard park here. And a kid showed up. He was absolutely matted in a wet hand, throwing things around and what have you. And everybody was giving him a bad time about it. And I looked at the bunch of them, and I says, ask yourself this. Why is he that mad? Because he was mad when he got here. So what happened? Well, one of the kids took me up on the idea and went and asked him what had gone on. They became really, really close friends by simply asking what was up. He didn't step in and try and change anything right off the bat. All he did was took notice. Okay. I'm sitting here looking at this. I'm absolutely amazed, in all fairness. I was not thinking that red, I wasn't even considering red. But, it actually looks really good. And I'll show you here in about 5 seconds. Because I'm just finishing off the edge line on it. See, this is what the red has done. But there we go. As you can see, it's not complete, but it is coming together. So I've got to finish it off and make sure that all fits together. But it was an excellent change in what I was thinking. Well, heck, it wasn't a change in what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking about it at all. But this makes it a lot more lively in my eyes. See, I can do the same thing with the rest of the fungus here, which again really boils down to when I go back to expand this section of the story, I can add this part to it and know exactly where it came from. Now, you're going to have to forgive me, Jenny, but the odds are I'm going to forget who actually told me. Okay, but then memory, names and I have never gotten along all that well. They're getting better. But I will remember that it wasn't my idea. that came up with the concept for the red fungus. When you're working on things, and this is why I tell people, where'd that go? The journey. There we are. Okay. I'm just adding, since I've got the paint and the red out, I'm just adding to this other section that also has the same type of fungus. But this is a question of taking a look at what you're doing and going, okay, I know I've got to do something. I don't come up with, this is why I said, when I'm writing the Chronicles, okay, every one of the main characters was actually built by another person. Okay. And those are the concepts that I worked with. Most of the characters that are in the story are either based on people that I've personally met or events I've personally gone through. Okay. And the reason for that is something I was told when I first started writing. When you're writing, write about something you know. If you're writing a song or if you're striving to sing, pick a song that means something to you. It will come out so much better. Okay. For me, this just boils down to a great way to tie things together. Because as I have mentioned to multiple people, okay, it is all connected. We are all connected. And it's going to be the issue of working together that we're going to turn around and make this world a better place for virtually everybody. Now, absolutely, there are going to be people that are not going to be happy with the idea. The people that have been telling you have to live your life in fear. Okay, and this is something I've been thinking about a lot lately. I was told one day that, it's funny, I was actually told I should become a minister one day. And lo and behold, where is it now? I guess this is 40 years later. Back in 1986, I actually became an ordained minister for the Universal Life Church, or affiliated with the Universal Life Church. Okay, but here's why I did it. They came across with a real simple philosophy. They went, we don't care what name you call your creator. Just encourage people to be nice to each other. Now, for me, this worked out really well. I mean, yes, I'm reclusive. I really am. And the more people I meet, the less I like going out in public. By the way, that is with the one exclusion. If I'm going to talk at a live event, or if I'm going on a radio show, I don't have a problem with it. Have a problem controlling my mouth on occasion. Like if I'm breathing and talking, I'm probably having trouble holding and controlling my mouth. I never was a good one for being politically correct. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. There's a T-shirt out that says, that thing that most people have in their head that says, oh, I shouldn't say that. I've got a slightly modified one. It usually comes out as, you really shouldn't have said that. 2020 hindsight, it's a great thing. For me, it's about the only way I see things. At least when it comes to talking about what I feel. And, I remember being in a staff meeting one day, and I'd taken the time to set things through. And again, this boils down to organization, or in some cases, biting your tongue long enough to let people give you enough information to hang themselves. And in this case, it was the first staff meeting I'd been at. And the boss said he wanted to hear from everybody. And people have been saying, oh, we should have more say in what you do with your money. Like that made any sense to somebody. And it got around to me, and I looked at my boss and I said, if it's all right with you, I'd like to hear the last couple of people before I say anything. So he was quite congenial about it, and he carried on. Well, it got back to me, and I looked at it, and I said, guys, you guys are all sitting here. So many of you are sitting here complaining you don't have any control over what our boss is saying, is doing with the money. I says, somebody mentioned that it's like a whole bunch of people. Well, don't have the grip. I said, some of you were saying, somebody mentioned that it's like a bunch of like we're a young company and we're just getting started. I says, it sounds to me with a lot of the complaints that are being made that I'm dealing with a lot of kindergarten dropouts that are whining a whole pile about stuff they don't have any functional knowledge of. And one of the girls, now bear in mind, I'd only worked with this staff for, I guess about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. And one of the staff looks at me and goes, well, that doesn't make me feel very good. And looked at her and says, it wasn't intended to. It was simply intended to point out the facts as I see them. Now, do understand, I am not perfect by any functional stretch. Okay, I do what I can. But one of the things that I really am playing around with, I've thought about avoiding major topics. And with that in mind, it's a question of getting my head on straight and organized, because I know what I don't desire to do is bridge a topic that upsets so many people that people stop actually subscribing to the channel. Ultimately, I would like this to be part of the key to my actually getting into a situation where I'm simply generating an income based solely on my writing, on my public appearances. Okay, well, you can't do that if you set everybody off. On the other hand, I'm not about to sit back and say, oh, everything's tickety-boo and I'm really happy with the world and it should stay the way it is. Because frankly, I'm appalled by the way it is right now. But that's me. It may well be you. I don't know. Okay. But I do know that if we don't do something and start working together to put all the negativity aside, and yes, this means things like, if you're going to a church, a temple, a coven, and they're telling you to fear your creator, they're telling you to hide from everything, and more importantly, give me all your money because it's evil, you might be listening to the wrong person. Am I quite willing to take money from people when they hand it to me? Absolutely. Okay, do I expect people to hand me money? No. That doesn't mean I'm stupid enough to turn them down. Before that gets any further, this is just what we're looking at here. Well, there we go. Now we're starting to get the red in. And the red on the hand is just about done. Now, of course, the real question I've got at this point, for me, is whether to make those fingers, whether to make them green or make them green at the ends, or, dark green. Okay, we'll try that one in English. Okay. Well, I know I'm going to have tan in the middle, and I don't want all kinds of colors. But I'm looking at, I've got the fingers that come, they come so far, right? And I've got this much finger or fingertip. Now, the two options I've got right now is I can take this section and turn it light brown and then turn that green. Turn this the same tan as I'm going to be putting up here. And right now, I'm kind of leaning that direction. As in the black being the hard bark on the outside, the rest of this being new growth. So that's what I'm thinking is, if I go with the tan for the first half of the finger until it shows where the nail is, and then turn the rest of it into a green, and then I've got to decide light or brown green. But again, I'm quite willing to listen to input. Okay, all in all, well, that did not work well. That will, though. This is why I keep dust cloth around. So periodically, I can actually adjust things and see what I'm doing. So much for sitting still and doing nothing today. Okay. In all fairness, I find, and I don't know if this is the way it's working, I find for me, considering I don't sit still well, actually working on a project while I'm talking to you seems to work reasonably well, at least for me. So, with that in mind, I am making headway here now that I know what I'm doing with that, because I know that's Tucson red that's going there. I wonder if I actually did break that, because I think I did. Well, if I did, I don't know where the hand went. Well, I know the hand broke, which is unfortunate. Well, there it is. But here's the neat thing. This is the character that I had that we heard fall a little earlier. As you can see, his hand's broken off. But there's a neat little thing here. See, the hand broke off and this is it. But I can take this hand now and I can turn it into just a disembodied hand, for other work. Or I can glue it back on. But I don't think my hands, see, try lining things up. If you look at my left hand or my right hand right now, that's normal. Okay. Unfortunately, I'm having a real bad day today from that end. But yeah, it just dawned on me that I can take that hand, paint it clear on its own, and net result have another thing. In Dungeons and Dragons, they would call it a crawling hand or a creeping hand. Okay. I've got a couple already, but that one would be rather unique. And realistically, having a giant that has lost a hand is not unheard of. So I think I'm going to work with it that way. And this is what I mean by getting things organized, by getting things sorted around so that you can accomplish what you're aiming for. Now, this neat little character I've been making reasonable headway on. And what did I do? There's my... Hey. Let's not do that. Knocking things down. One of the problems with trying to keep everything close by is that you run into a snag that you just don't have enough fingers or you don't have enough lamps and, counter space. And especially when we consider the fact that I work on a computer, on a desk that has the laptop, 3 monitors, a printer, my phone. Ultimately, it's a lot of stuff on one counter. Well, way too much. That's okay. I can work with it. Ouch. So I take that and I go and get another toothpick because, they're kind of necessary. Grab that and get myself another little paintbrush. And what do I got here? Well, we know I've got the tan that's going in the middle. And ultimately, I'm going to have to make the decision on my own. But hey, what the heck? So now what I'm doing is just painting the middle of the top of that of this arborean. And by doing that, things can work out quite nicely. At least in my eyes. It just boils down to deciding what I'm looking for without actually creating a problem. People ask me quite often what I'm working on or if I'm working on the figures. And this is just one of those times where I decided it was a good idea. But it really boils down to deciding how much you've got that you're trying to do, how many different projects. In my case, most of what I work on is interlinked, which is why I am also currently writing not only the Yldrbacian Chronicles, but I'm writing 4 books that are all literally targeting the idea of success. Okay, different aspects of it. Right now, I'm writing them as 4 books and combine them into one in order to make certain that we actually get the proper information out. But it boils down to deciding what is important to you as to what you focus on. But don't let anybody tell you cannot, that you're incapable of doing things. You may require training. Okay, and there's a lot of things I don't recommend. Of course, personally, I don't recommend skydiving. I've yet to find a good reason to get out of a perfectly good aircraft. To me, that doesn't make any functional sense. Hey, what a novel thought. I'm just sitting here looking at this going, I'm painting these spots and what have you, and that's good. But I'm looking at it going, who said the fingers all have to be the same color? Trees don't grow at the same pace. So, I can do some of the fingers brown, some of the fingers green, because there are different types of growth on all plants. This literally just dawned on me. I'm sitting here going, well, I can do that this way, which I think is an excellent thing. So I think what I'm going to do is just that. We take this finger here, because I answered that. And again, a lot of things I do, like I'll be working along on one path and go, oh, but this will work well. And net result is you're seeing what's happened. Okay. And do understand, one of the things here is I get this painted and I can use it for helping visualize what I'm writing, which is a new approach to doing things, because usually I've just been running right off the cuff. Matter of fact, that's worked for me for years. But it is time to really start focusing on doing things in a more controlled, in a more focused fashion, if you will. So right now, this is just a question of getting the fingers done, at least this one finger. And then I'll show you what I'm working on, because I'm going to end up wrapping things up here pretty quick. I mentioned this idea of being organized, and it really boils down to figuring out what works for you, getting the clutter out of your life. Because I will tell you, even as a pack rat, okay, and I've spent a lot of years as a pack rat, but once you start getting the clutter moved out of the way, you'll find the energy moves much more readily, and you're able to accomplish a lot more. Have you ever run into that neat little situation where you're feeling like you're really behind the 8 ball, you're just not making any headway, and you can't figure out how to get motivated? Motivation is a funny thing. You start by doing little tiny things, and it becomes a real heartfelt imperative that you get them completed. But you start off with the little things so it's not overwhelming. And then sooner or later, the little things get out of the way, and you're left with bigger ones that you start chipping at one piece at a time. Which is what I've done here. Okay. Because all of a sudden I've gone from just one color. There'll be 5 colors on this thing, and you don't need a whole lot of colors, but nature is multicolored. I mean, even if you take a look at my hair, okay, it's gray and it's black. Kind of happens with nature. Ultimately, things get interestingly complicated. That was just wrong. So, I'm taking a look at things going, what are we working with here? And for me, there's what we've got. Now, this is what happens when we add the brown to that hand. Can we get it turned around so we can see it? Not well. Apparently not. I can't see it well, so I'm hoping you can. I don't think that shows up that well. Might just be too bright. But that's okay. But what time are we here? Yep, we are winding things down here because we don't have a choice. Well, I technically do, but I got to get ready for work too. So, if you'll excuse me for half a second. Welcome to life. Now, where am I? Right there. I don't think you can actually see the finger there. I want to get the other one because, not the other one, but the green that I decided on. So, where are we here? Sure, leave my glasses over there. I want the dark green. Not holiday. But that's blue. That will not work. Lime green, which is wonderful for orcs, but on the head, there it is. That's the green I wanted. This green here will work quite nicely for the other. What do we got here? Oh, of course. Yeah, I got green here that's complaining. But again, this boils down to an issue of being as organized as you can get away with. Now that might be considered a plug in a paintball. Don't need that. That's why I couldn't get it to push anything out. It was completely sealed. Now, toothpick, because I just threw that one out. This is what I get for doing 17 jobs at the same time. You should see what happens when I get writing. Only then I'm turning completely broadside to you and you can't see a thing. But you pick, like I said, you pick one goal that you're working on, break it down into smaller tasks. Okay, whatever they are, you break it down into your smaller tasks, and the net result is you can actually get a lot more accomplished. Okay, for me, let's see if we add green there. And I only work with a couple of drops at a time for obvious reasons. And grab the other paintbrush. Needless to say, where it comes to these, I buy a whole pile of I buy the really, really, really inexpensive ones. Because I know they're just going to get thrown out. Because there's not much I can do with them. If anybody has an idea on how to clear a paint of acrylic paint, that'd be great. This one here I'm working on, Troy, this is an arboreum. Okay, by the way, I didn't see you come in, but welcome aboard. You caught me right at the end here. I'm going to be here for a little bit, but I've got to make sure I've got to be on shift by 3 o'clock. My time. It is now 25 after 2. So I'll be here for a little bit longer. But what I'm working on here is just one of the characters in the story that I'm working on in the Return to Paradise. Okay. So all I'm doing is just adding because by taking these figures and painting them, I'm finding it easier to stay focused on what I'm writing. Especially when you think I've got one section that I'm in the process of writing that's actually from back in book 7. That is 15 to 1 odds. But it's when the main character at that point, not in book 7, or no, I think it's book 3, where he is absolutely livid. Where the primary character at this point, it'll be Billion. Yeah, so it's definitely book 3. Billion actually gets really, really agitated and takes out, he goes after 15 different people at once. But I have a tendency of writing in a very graphic form. People ask me, what is your target? Well, my target is simple as far as people go. Okay, I'm a gamer, and I've known gamers all the way from age 8 to 80. Okay, and the only thing that I can say is, depending on who you talk to, when it comes to what I write and the way I write my stories, they are very definitively graphic where it comes to the combat side. Where it comes to the more adult aspect, as far as the intimacy side goes, I don't go there. That's just not part of what I write. I don't write mystery. I don't write fiction. I don't write the adult versions. That's all for somebody else. Okay. But I figured I've got to take a look at it and really organize my thoughts. Here we go. See, now what's happening, there's what we're dealing with. There we are. I don't know how well you can see that. I know I can't see it very well. I took my eyes off. But if I turn around, I take the glasses here, and I turn around, there we go. 10 doesn't show up very well, but you can see the way I've got it listed over the black there. Oh, there's how to do it. I just turn it that way. Now you can see the different coloring on it. But the way I was looking at it while I was talking here, Jenny came up with the idea of making the fungus red. And while I'm sitting there talking, it's like, I'm going, I could make the fingers all brown or make them all green. I'm going like, no, trees grow at different paces. Different limbs grow at different speeds. And as they get more mature, they will change color. So I'm looking at this going, okay, how do I make that work? And now we're seeing how that works, is by taking the color and adding it appropriately. And of course, I'll be working on this one for quite a while. I won't be able to finish all in one sitting, obviously. But again, there are many people I know of that really have a project or have a goal in life. One thing that they forget about is if you don't have the groundwork to do it, if you don't have the baseline skills, then you're not going to be able to get the advanced skills dealt with. You're just not going to be capable of it. And unfortunately, in the way today's world is being built as far as education goes, that's exactly what's happening. People are not being given the basic skills to survive. Now, part of that is the parents' problem. But a massive majority, because we have been indoctrinated to believe that going to school is where you learn things. Many parents have neglected, and in all fairness, myself included, have neglected the issue of what we have to teach our own kids. But you have to give the people the skills to actually accommodate whatever they're aiming at. You cannot teach a person how to read if you do not teach them how to recognize the alphabet. Okay. You cannot teach a person how to run if you don't, first of all, teach them how to stand up. Now, in all fairness, they don't have to be able to stand up steadily to run. Because realistically, running is more an issue of falling over and not landing on your face. Just adjusting your footing as you go. Little oversimplified. But it does get the point across, I feel. And that's why I'm looking at this going, okay, I've got these little bits and pieces of growth that are working out quite nicely. For me, anyway. And I figure since I'm working on the green, I might as well do all of the ends of the fingers I'm looking at. Now I'll go back and do the middle parts at this point. Probably would have been more functional to actually do the brown first. But that ain't the way it worked. So, where are we here? Okay. I never even thought about that. I would give that a shot. I've actually got some here. I will absolutely give that a shot there, Jenny. I gotta ask, do you actually paint as a hobby or as a living? Or is this just things that you've picked up over the years? Because I'll tell you, the ideas you're coming up with are turning out to be absolutely mind-bogglingly useful. And I would rather clean the brushes than throw them out. But thus far, I haven't had any other options. But I will certainly do that when I get done here today, which isn't going to be that long. As a matter of fact, I got to start winding it down. But that is an excellent thing to give a shot, and I will certainly do that. Because the neat part about it is, like I said, I'm not perfect by any means. I don't know all the tricks of the trade by any functional stretch of the imagination. So I'm looking at it going, anything I can do to make things work a little better. And I think that's why tomorrow I'll go back and share with you some of what's been done as far as the stories that are already out goes. Because as near as I can figure, I've got to find a way to let people know what I'm actually writing if I intend to sell any of it. In all fairness, I'm writing because it's a story I came up with quite some time back and decided I desired to get it into print. Well, currently I've got 2 out of 10 done in that particular series. But I'm working on the other 10 all at the same time, and I'll be working on them tonight. And then, of course, I've got at least 3 other sub-stories that are tied directly to it, to the saga. And then, of course, we have we've got the Races of the Worlds volumes 1 and 2 that have to be completed. And like I said earlier, that would be Chris Holmes that was in the chat room a little earlier. If you need some artwork done, he is the one I'm using for my books, for the Races of the Worlds. I've got a different artist, a John Stubbington out of England, that is actually that did all the cover work for the Yldrbac Chronicles, and he's doing all of that. And last little finger here, and once I'm done this little finger, this little piggy went to market, and this little piggy stayed home. This little piggy had roast beef, and this little piggy had none. And this little piggy went wee all the way home. Now there's a story that some of you haven't heard in a long time. Actually, I'm really kind of surprised it came out that way, but what the heck. Like I said, I don't plan much of what I'm doing here. But, and then we have new growth on the fingers. Where are we? There we go. New growth on the fingers there. I don't think you can see them very well. I will be adding more black to this today. Just got to let it set for a bit. And in the meantime, people, thank you so much for joining me. I unfortunately have to go to work. Or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. I do appreciate that, Jenny. And thank you so much for sharing your little tips. I'm going to go and grab the sanitizer I've got and see if that works. I'll tell you, bleach didn't do a thing, right? And neither did standard soap and water. So, what the heck? Give this one a shot. But I do have to get flying. So thanks so much for joining me. And by all means, whatever you do, until we talk again, take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.